Hello, your absolute lad has recovered from COVID, but stuff still happens. So what's up, ladies? We see you in a bad way. By we, I mean men. Yeah, let's talk about the male gaze, the G-A-Z-E. I mean, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but let's talk about a study that was done on women to look at the effects of the male gaze on their ability to do stuff. If you're not familiar, or if you're a dude, the male gaze is the notion of being very aware that you're being objectified. And so there was a study that was like, okay, this seems to be a phenomenon, but like, how does it actually impact women's performance? And so they took a bunch of women and had them do math problems, and half of the group was recorded when they were doing it, and the other half was not. The results of the study showed that women actually did not have a reduction in their ability to get stuff done under the effects of the presumed male gaze. However, they did note that they felt more objectified. But double, however, the women in the non-recorded group also felt self-objectified. So what have we learned? Well, for one, women are over-objectified and have learned hella coping strategies, which is just more extra things you have to do to be a woman. It basically just tells us that women have a whole lot of shit to deal with. Who'd have thunk it? Joe Biden is reading the room real well right now. It's an election year in the US, and one of the frontrunner candidates for the presidency wants to completely shut down the border. His name is Joe Biden. I mean, Trump, obviously Trump does too. But Biden has made a formal statement saying that he would shut down the border on day one if Congress passes the bill they're currently bickering about, which would give him the ability to do that. Here is a quote from whitehouse.gov. Quote, "It would give me, as president, a new emergency authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. And given that authority, I would use it the day I sign the bill into law." Now, the bill does include provisions about speeding up asylum requests and whatnot, which is a thing that we should have. But also, this is stupid. Hey y'all, I know I'm deeply unpopular with my own party right now, but what if we also started using talking points from the other party, while maintaining the notion that we are different from the other party? Anyway, borders are fake. Ladies, we don't see you. All right, women, let's do another study about how your life kind of sucks. So, if you're not familiar with endometriosis, it is an affliction that affects a lot of women, where basically their body wants to kill them whenever they menstruate. It is a condition that causes egregious pain, both during your period and also just kind of all the time if you've got a really bad case. It is also a condition that doctors seem to just not acknowledge, because women have been dealing with not being heard for years. They'll go to the doctor and be like, "Hi, I'm in constant egregious pain." And the doctor's like, "I think you're making that up. Prove it." Or they'll be like, "Nah, it's just irritable bowel syndrome. Deal with it." And so a recent study in the UK took a look at 33 different women with endometriosis and their experience in trying to get care for it. And the results are not wonderful, but deeply expected. The common theme was that they would go to a doctor. The doctor would be like, "You're exaggerating," or "It's in your head," or "It's this other thing," or "I don't care." Some women would have to drive hours just to find a specialist that would be like, "Oh yeah, that's a real thing and we can work on it with you." Or if you're not driving hours, you're waiting years to finally find someone who can help you. This is not a rare condition. I know several women with endometriosis. Like, they're all around us. They are among us. Is that meme still relevant? Anyway, all of this is just basically showing us, again, I'm sorry, women, but at least people are starting to learn more about it. And hey, maybe you learned a little bit too. But perhaps we can finally move on from, like doing egregious things against women. No, never mind. Let's keep it rolling. Twitter has had a moment. Not a good moment, but a moment. AI-generated nude images of Taylor Swift have been circulating around Twitter after somebody posted them and then Twitter did nothing about it. They did nothing about it because Elon Musk has essentially fired the entirety of their trust and safety team. And so it just sort of languished for a while until eventually Taylor Swift fans took it into their own hands and just started flooding Twitter with posts trying to drown out the images. And then eventually Twitter did the big brain move of just blocking all searches for the name Taylor Swift. Damn, if only there was like infrastructure and entire teams whose whole purpose was to focus on trying to prevent stuff like this from happening. Oh, and speaking of preventing stuff like this from happening, the CEO of Microsoft made a statement after it came out that the person who made these images used Microsoft's AI tools to generate them. He was like, "Dang, oh, that sucks, but we've got some teams who are working real hard to try to make it so that you can't abuse women with our tools." Here's a thought. Maybe if you are a massive company and you put out a product that lets people generate nude imagery against other people's will, you should face criminal charges instead of, I don't know, getting a seat at the table of an AI regulatory board for the federal government. Just a thought. Today's moon phase is a double-decker turkey club with spicy mayo. Your luck will increase throughout the day, but only if you tell a friend you love them. Walk in the light of the moon. Cool. Lightning round! A church pastor got rich off of crypto scams and said that God told him to do it. Japan successfully landed on the moon. A woman stole a horse and buggy from a Walmart parking lot. I'm not even mad. These are the headlines I look for. If you've been living under a rock, there's a new game out called Pal World that looks a lot like Pokemon with guns. Nintendo has put out a statement saying that they are aware of it and looking into it. Speaking of Nintendo, there are rumors of the Switch 2 coming out potentially this year with a larger screen and more beef. Although it's not hard to have more beef than the original Switch, which came out like many years ago and is essentially less powerful than a phone from the same time period. Texas is out here saber rattling again about trying to secede and become their own nation or whatever. They do this. This is what Texas does. I wouldn't get too up in arms about a civil war just yet. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary because he sucks. 3 U.S. military service members were killed in a drone strike in Jordan. What were they doing there, Joe? Hey, Joe, why are we there? Maybe we should just not be there. Hey, Joe. Weird, I bet no other country has had to deal with drone strikes. After newsletter platform Substack doubled down on hosting Nazi content, a bunch of publications have moved off the platform, including their biggest publications like Platformer. There's a new COVID pill in the works that's apparently going to be effective for people who are not just high-risk patients. Pretty hype. Microsoft is laying off 1,900 employees from their gaming division. Because gotta keep the layoffs going. As Japan successfully landed on the moon, a private company in the US also attempted to land on the moon. And it didn't work. The mission failed pretty bad. Donald Trump has been found liable for defamation by a jury of his peers, and they are now requesting that he pay about $83 million in fines. Speaking of Trump and his ilk, WWE founder Vince McMahon has been accused of sex trafficking. And finally for today, a movie studio tried to pay out a payment to Tom Holland, but accidentally sent it to Tom Hollander, which I assume is just the Pokemon evolution of Tom Holland. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Stuff Keeps Happening. Head to stuffkeepshappening.online for sources, bonus content, and a lollipop the size of your head. Y'all, it is so good to be back. I really appreciate the support while I was gone. It made all of the difference. My name is Endeavorance. I'll be back on Thursday. Take care and be well.